Park Jisoo stood at the observation window of her ship and watched the stars. 60 years ago, humanity had met its first alien species. 60 years of hope. 60 years of trying to make friends. 60 years of being treated like fools. She was the captain of the Horizon's Promise, a diplomatic vessel that carried ambassadors across the galaxy. In her 20 years of service, she had seen things that made her proud to be human. She had also seen things that made her ashamed of how easily her people trusted others. The door behind her opened. Lieutenant Kang Do-yoon walked in with a tablet in his hands. His face was tired, angry at the same time. "Captain, I finished the report you asked for," he said. Jisoo turned around. "How bad is it?" Do-yoon handed her the tablet. 847 treaties in 60 years. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, mutual defense pacts. Every single one was broken by the other side. Every single one. Jisoo looked at the numbers on the screen. She had expected it to be bad, but seeing it written down made her stomach hurt. Humanity had given away fusion reactor designs for mining rights that never came. They had shared medical technology for star maps that were already free to everyone else. They had offered food and shelter to refugees who later stole their ships and laughed about it. "We are the galaxy's fools," Jisoo said quietly. "We were trying to be good neighbors," Do-yoon replied. "We thought if we were generous enough, they would respect us. And instead, they learned that humans will give away anything if you ask nicely." Jisoo handed back the tablet. "Send this to Ambassador Yoon. She needs to see it before her meeting with the Vethrani." The Vethrani were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the Galactic Confederacy. They had beautiful silver skin and voices like music. They were also some of the worst cheaters humanity had ever met. 10 years ago, they had promised to protect human colony ships in exchange for engine technology. They took the technology. Then they watched as pirates destroyed 3 colony ships and did nothing. Ambassador Yoon Haran had been dealing with aliens for 30 years. She had gray in her hair now and lines on her face from too many fake smiles. But she still believed in diplomacy. She still believed that if she found the right words, she could make things better. The meeting was held on a space station between human and Vethrani territory. Haran wore her best formal clothes. She had prepared for weeks. The deal was simple. Human medical technology that could cure diseases the Vethrani had suffered from for centuries. In exchange, the Vethrani would share mineral resources that Earth needed badly. The Vethrani delegate was named Torath. He was tall and beautiful, with silver skin that seemed to glow. He listened to Haran's proposal with a small smile on his face. When she finished, he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "You misunderstand your position, human," Torath said. "You do not offer us trades. You give us tribute. That medical technology? You will hand it over because we allow you to exist in this part of space. Be grateful we do not take more." Haran felt her hands start to shake. She had been insulted before. She had been cheated before. She had smiled through all of it because that was her job. But something about Torath's laugh broke something inside her. "We are grateful for nothing," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were not. "This meeting is over." She walked out of the room. Behind her, Torath was still laughing. On the ship back to Earth, Haran called an emergency meeting. Captain Park Jisoo was there. So was Admiral Cho Min-ho, commander of Earth's defense forces, and President Baek Sun-ho, leader of the United Earth Council. They met in a small room with gray walls and no windows. "I am done," Haran said. 30 years I have spent smiling at creatures who see us as nothing. 30 years of being patient. 30 years of believing that things would get better. They will never get better. They do not want equals. They want servants. President Baek was a quiet man with kind eyes. He had been a teacher before he became a politician. He believed in peace and understanding. But even he looked tired now. "What do you suggest?" he asked. "We stop," Heron said. "We stop giving. We stop negotiating. We stop pretending that these relationships benefit us. We walk away from all of it." Admiral Cho leaned forward. He was a big man with a soldier's face. "If we do that, they might attack us. Then we defend ourselves," Heron replied. "How long have we been preparing for that possibility?" Cho was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Longer than they know." The vote was held 1 week later. Every nation on Earth, every colony in the solar system, every human being who could vote was asked a simple question. Should humanity withdraw from all alien treaties and agreements? The answer was yes. Not just a majority. Not just most people. Everyone. For the first time in human history, every single voter agreed on something. Captain Jisoo was on duty when the announcement was made. She watched the message go out on every channel, in every language known to the galaxy. Humanity hereby withdraws from all existing treaties, agreements, and diplomatic arrangements with members of the Galactic Confederacy. We will honor no deals made under false pretenses. We will engage in no new negotiations. Until such time as we deem otherwise, humanity stands alone. Dawn stood beside her. "Do you think they will understand?" "No," Jisoo said. "They will think we are bluffing. They will think we are weak and scared, and that we will come back begging for their friendship. And when they realize we are serious?" Jisoo thought about all the treaties she had watched get signed and broken. She thought about the colony ships that burned while the Vethrani watched. She thought about Ambassador Yoon's shaking hands. "Then they will learn something important," she said. "They will learn that humans remember. We remember every broken promise. We remember every laugh. We remember every time we offered our hand and got slapped. And now they will learn what happens when we stop being generous." The stars outside the window looked cold and distant. For 60 years, humanity had reached toward them with open arms. Now those arms were closing. In her office on Earth, Ambassador Yoon Heron was packing her things. She would not need them anymore. There would be no more meetings with aliens who thought she was beneath them. No more fake smiles. No more hoping that this time would be different. She picked up a small photograph from her desk. It showed her younger self, smiling brightly, shaking hands with the first alien ambassador she had ever met. She had been so hopeful then, so certain that the universe was full of friends waiting to be made. She put the photograph in a drawer and closed it. That woman was gone now. The galaxy had killed her, one broken promise at a time. What was left was someone harder. Someone who would not forget. Someone who would make sure humanity never forgot either. The message continued to broadcast across the stars. Most aliens who heard it laughed, just like Torith had laughed. Silly humans, they thought. They would come back soon enough. They always did. They were wrong. This time, humanity was done being generous. This time, the galaxy would learn what it had lost. And by the time they understood, it would be far too late. 6 months passed. The galaxy waited for humanity to apologize, to come back, to beg for forgiveness and return to their place as the universe's most generous fools. The apology never came. Admiral Cho Min-ho stood on the bridge of Earth's largest defense station, watching his screens. The Sol system had become a fortress. Thousands of weapons platforms floated in the darkness between planets. Patrol ships moved in careful patterns, watching every approach. His orders were simple. Nothing alien gets in. Nothing human goes out. Complete isolation. "Sir," one of his officers said. "Vethrani diplomatic ship approaching the outer boundary." Cho did not look up from his coffee. Turn them away. They are demanding to speak with someone in authority. They say they have an important message from the Confederacy. I said turn them away. No words, no explanations. Just silence. The officer nodded and sent the order. On the edge of the solar system, the Vethrani ship waited for 3 days. They sent hundreds of messages. They made threats. They made promises. They begged. No one answered. Finally, they left. They were the first of many. Over the next 6 months, 47 different species sent ships to Earth. Some came with gifts. Some came with demands. Some came with weapons. All of them were turned away the same way. Silence. Complete and total silence. Commander Shin Yunji was in charge of building the defensive grid around Earth itself. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and hands that never stopped moving. Before the withdrawal, she had been an engineer on a space station. Now she worked 18 hours a day, making sure her planet could never be touched. The new shield generators are online, she reported to Admiral Cho. We can take anything the Confederacy throws at us. Are you sure? Cho asked. Yunji smiled. It was not a friendly smile. For 60 years, we gave them our old technology. The safe technology. The things we did not mind sharing. They have no idea what we kept for ourselves. Across the galaxy, things were starting to go wrong. Dr. Han Yuna was one of Earth's best scientists. She had spent her life studying alien biology, trying to find ways to help other species. Her greatest project was a cure for Kelthian wasting disease, a terrible sickness that killed millions every year. 3 days after the withdrawal, she was ordered to stop all research sharing. She was told to destroy any work that had been sent to alien partners. She went to Admiral Cho's office to argue. Those people are dying, she said. I have information that could save them. How can we just let them suffer? Cho pulled a file from his desk and handed it to her. Read this. Yuna opened the file. Inside were reports from human intelligence agents. The Kelthians had been selling human genetic data on the black market for 40 years. They had taken blood samples from human diplomats. They had stolen DNA from human children born on shared space stations. They had made billions selling information about human biology to anyone who wanted to buy it. Yuna's hands started to shake. They were studying us, she whispered. Like animals. Like products, Cho corrected. Every species we helped was doing something like this. Stealing from us. Lying to us. Using our kindness against us. Yuna closed the file. That night, she went back to her laboratory. She looked at all her research. Years of work. Information that could save millions of lives. She deleted everything. Then she sat in the dark and cried. Not because she was sad, but because she was angry. Angry that she had ever believed these creatures deserved her help. The effects of humanity's withdrawal began to spread. The Morath Collective had used human atmospheric processes to clean their polluted homeworld. When parts began to fail, they had no one to fix them. The air on their planet slowly became poison again. The Sindari Federation depended on human quantum engineers to maintain their faster-than-light communication network. Without maintenance, the network began to break down. Colonies that had been connected for centuries were suddenly alone. The Rilkani had based their entire food supply on human agricultural science. When the growing cycles went wrong, they had no one to ask for help. Famine spread across their worlds. Everywhere, species that had laughed at humanity were discovering an uncomfortable truth. They had taken so much from humans over the years that they had forgotten how to survive without them. Captain Park Jisu, now promoted to Rear Admiral, commanded a patrol fleet near Jupiter. Her job was to intercept anyone trying to sneak into the solar system. One night, her sensors detected a small ship. It was not military. It was barely holding together, Inside were refugees from the Morith Collective, fleeing their dying world. There were children on board. Jisoo looked at the ship on her screen for a long time. Part of her wanted to help them. That was the human instinct, after all. The instinct that had made Earth so generous for so long. But she also remembered. She remembered the Morith laughing when human colonists died in a space station fire. She remembered them refusing to share the medicine that could have saved those colonists, even though humans had given them medicine many times before. "Turn them away," she ordered. Her communications officer hesitated. "Sir, there are children on that ship. I know." Jisoo's voice was flat. "Turn them away." The ship was escorted to the edge of the solar system and released. Jisoo did not watch it go. She could not afford to feel pity. If she started feeling pity, she would start forgiving. And humanity had spent 60 years forgiving creatures who never deserved it. Still, that night, she did not sleep well. On Earth, President Baek Sun-ho addressed the United Earth Council. "We are receiving reports from across the galaxy," he said. "Systems are failing. Populations are suffering. Many species are blaming us for their problems." "Let them blame us," Ambassador Yoon Haran replied. "They created these problems themselves when they decided that humans were tools to be used rather than partners to be respected." "Some of them are dying," Baek said quietly. "Yes." Haran's face showed no emotion. "And every one of them, at some point, watched humans die and did nothing. Every one of them laughed at our suffering. Every one of them thought we were beneath them. Now they are learning what the galaxy looks like without us. This is not our fault. This is the consequence of their choices." Baek looked at her for a long moment. He remembered the young diplomat she had been, full of hope and belief in a better universe. That woman was gone. In her place was someone made of ice and iron. He was not sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But he knew one thing for certain. There was no going back now. Humanity had drawn a line, and they would not cross it. Not for pity. Not for guilt. Not for anything. The silence continued. Across the stars, the Galactic Confederacy held emergency meetings. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to apologize to humanity. Some wanted to attack them. Some wanted to pretend nothing was wrong and wait for things to return to normal. Nothing returned to normal. 1 year after the withdrawal, the galaxy finally understood that humanity was serious. They were not bluffing. They were not playing games. They were truly, completely, absolutely done. And the galaxy had no idea what to do about it. In her quarters on the patrol ship, Admiral Jisoo looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, species that had mocked humanity were suffering. Part of her felt satisfied. Another part felt sick. But mostly, she felt tired. Tired of anger. Tired of memory. Tired of carrying the weight of 60 years of betrayal. She wondered how long this would last. How long could humanity stay angry? How long could they keep the walls up? She did not know the answer. But she knew that the walls would not come down easily. And anyone who tried to force them down would discover that humanity had learned more than just anger from the galaxy. They had learned how to fight. 2 years after the withdrawal, the Vethrani Empire decided that enough was enough. Humanity had embarrassed them by walking away from negotiations. Humanity had ignored their demands. Humanity had made them look weak in front of the entire galaxy. It was time to teach these primitive creatures a lesson. 300 warships gathered at the edge of Vethrani space. They were the finest ships the Empire had ever built, armed with weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations. Their commander, High Admiral Neril, had never lost a battle. He did not expect to lose this one either. "Humans are soft," he told his officers before they departed. "They build nice things. They share their toys. They think being kind makes them strong. We will show them what true strength looks like. The fleet entered the Sol system on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Vice Admiral Im Jung-hoo was waiting for them. He stood on the bridge of the unyielding Sol, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around him, his crew worked in calm silence. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for years. And unlike the Vethrani, they knew exactly what they were capable of. 300 ships, sir, his tactical officer reported. They are coming in standard attack formation. Jung-woo nodded. Standard formation. How boring. He looked at his weapons officer. Are the new systems ready? Yes, sir. All systems are green. Good. Jung-woo sat back in his chair. Let them come closer. Let them think they have already won. The Vethrani fleet moved through the outer solar system. They passed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. The closer they got, the more confident Nero became. Where were the human defenders? Where were the famous patrol ships? He saw nothing but empty space. They are hiding, he said to his officers. They know they cannot fight us. Perhaps they will surrender when they see our strength. His sensors officer looked confused. Sir, I am detecting some strange readings. There are objects around Jupiter, but I cannot identify them. Debris, Nero said. Probably old satellites. Ignore them. The fleet continued forward. They were almost at Jupiter when everything changed. The debris around Jupiter activated. 10,000 weapons platforms woke up at the same time. They were small and hard to see, but each one carried weapons that the Vethrani had never encountered before. And behind the platforms, hidden in Jupiter's shadow, was the human fleet. Not just the unyielding Sol, but 50 warships that had been waiting in perfect silence. Jung-woo smiled. Now, the battle lasted 11 minutes. The Vethrani ships had shields designed to stop plasma weapons and missile attacks. They were not designed to stop the quantum disruptors that humans had been building in secret for 30 years. The disruptors did not shoot through shields. They made the shields disappear entirely. The first 100 Vethrani ships lost their shields in the first minute. The second minute, they lost their engines. By the third minute, they were trying to run away. They did not get far. Admiral Nero watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. Ships that had conquered worlds were breaking into pieces. Officers who had laughed at human weakness were screaming for help. How is this possible? He whispered. Their technology was primitive. We studied it. We knew everything about them. His weapons officer turned to him with fear in his eyes. Sir, they gave us old technology. They kept the real weapons for themselves. Nero understood then. Humanity had never been weak. They had chosen to be generous. And the Vethrani had mistaken that choice for inability. It was the last thing Nero understood. A moment later, a quantum disruptor hit his bridge. When the battle ended, not a single human ship had been destroyed. The Vethrani had lost 287 ships. The rest had surrendered or run away. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 100 different worlds, beings who had laughed at humanity suddenly stopped laughing. The species they had cheated and mocked and used for 60 years had just destroyed one of the most powerful fleets in the Confederacy. In 11 minutes, Councilor No Ji-yeon of the United Earth Council addressed the galaxy. Her face was calm and cold as she spoke. We did not start this. For 60 years, we asked only for fairness. We were laughed at. We were cheated. We were treated as something less than real beings. When we asked to be left alone, you sent warships. This was your response to our simple request for respect. She paused. Her eyes seemed to look directly at every being watching. Let this be our response. We will defend ourselves against any attack. We will not negotiate with those who have proven themselves unworthy of trust. We will not forgive crimes committed against our people. And we will never forget what you taught us about the galaxy." The message ended. Across the Confederacy, panic began. Species that had exploited humanity for decades realized their mistake. The humans had been kind because they chose to be kind, not because they had to be. Now they were choosing differently. Trade networks collapsed as species blamed each other for angering the humans. 3 governments fell in the first week after the battle. Civil wars erupted in the outer territories as groups fought over who was responsible for the disaster. And through it all, humanity remained silent. General Quan Taeyong was given command of a new project called Remembrance. His job was to create a complete record of every crime committed against humanity by every alien species, every broken treaty, every theft, every murder that had been ignored. The list was very, very long. "What will we do with this information?" one of his officers asked. Taeyong looked at the files covering his desk. 60 years of betrayal, carefully documented. "We will remember," he said. "And when the galaxy comes begging for forgiveness, we will know exactly what they are asking us to forgive." On her ship, Admiral Park Jisoo watched the reports come in. The Vathrani Empire was falling apart. Other species were turning against them, blaming them for the disaster. Their economy was collapsing. Their military was broken. Part of her felt satisfied. These were the same creatures who had laughed while human colonists died. They deserved what they were getting. But another part of her felt something else. Something like sadness. "We used to be different," she said quietly to Commander Kang Do-yun. "We used to believe in reaching out to others, in building bridges, in being the better species. They made us this way," Do-hyun replied. "We tried being good. They showed us that good gets used. I know." Jisoo closed her eyes. "I know they did. I just wonder sometimes if we lost something important when we decided to fight back." Dahan was quiet for a moment. "Maybe we did," he finally said. "But we survived. And right now, that has to be enough." In her laboratory on Earth, Dr. Han Yuna watched the death toll from Kelfian wasting disease climb higher every day. The cure she had destroyed could have saved them. Sometimes she woke up at night thinking about the children who were dying because she had burned her research. But then she remembered the files, the genetic data, the 40 years of being treated like a specimen to be studied. She had done the right thing. She kept telling herself that. She had done the right thing. The words fell hollow, but she kept saying them anyway. The galaxy had wanted humans to be tools, resources to be used and thrown away. For 60 years, humanity had proved them right by giving and giving and giving. Now humanity was proving them wrong. Now the galaxy was learning that humans had always had the power to fight back. They had simply chosen not to use it. That choice had been a gift. The most generous gift humanity had ever given. The galaxy had wasted it. And now everyone was paying the price. 5 years after the withdrawal, the galaxy was dying. Not quickly, not in fire and explosions, but slowly, piece by piece, system by system. The universe was learning what it meant to exist without humanity. The Marth Collective was the first to fall completely. Their atmospheric processors, based on human designs, had broken down years ago. They had no one who understood how to fix them. The air on their homeworld had become poison. 2 billion Morath died before they could escape to their colonies. Another billion died waiting for help that never came. The Sindari Federation's communication network had completely collapsed. Without human quantum specialists, their faster-than-light links had degraded beyond repair. Hundreds of colonies that had been connected for generations were now alone in the darkness of space. Some had enough resources to survive. Many did not. The Kelthian wasting disease had become an extinction-level plague. Without a cure, without Dr. Han Yuna's research, the disease spread to every Kelthian world. Their population had dropped by 60%. Experts predicted they would be gone within a generation. And everywhere, on every world, beings asked the same question. How did we not see this coming? Ambassador Yoon Heron sat in her office on Luna Station. She was 63 years old now, with gray hair and eyes as hard as stone. Every day, delegations came to see her. They brought gifts. They brought apologies. They brought desperate pleas for help. She said the same thing to all of them. No, today's visitor was a Rolkani diplomat named Sethik. His people were starving. The agricultural systems they had built using human science had failed, and they had forgotten how to grow food any other way. Millions were dying. Please, Sethik said. His voice was trembling. We made mistakes. We know that now. But our children are hungry. They did nothing wrong. They were not even born when we signed those treaties. Heron looked at him. She remembered a time when words like that would have moved her, when she would have felt compassion, when she would have wanted to help. That time was gone. Your children are hungry, she said. Do you know what happened to human children on Station Valor? 20 years ago, when there was a food shortage and your people controlled the supply? Sethik was silent. They starved, Heron continued. 112 human children died because your government decided they were not worth feeding. Your officials laughed about it. They called it population control for lesser species. I did not know. You did not want to know. Heron stood up. That is the problem. None of you wanted to know what your governments were doing to humans. It was easier to look away. It was easier to enjoy the benefits of our technology without thinking about where it came from. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The answer is no. It will always be no. You may go. Sethik left. He was crying. Heron did not watch him go. That night, she dreamed about the woman she used to be. The young diplomat who believed in building bridges. The idealist who thought that kindness could change the universe. In her dream, that woman asked her a question. What have you become? Heron woke up in the darkness of her room. She knew the answer to the question. She had become what the galaxy needed her to be. A wall, a shield, a reminder that humanity would never be used again. But sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, she wondered if that was really true, or if she had simply become another kind of monster. On Earth, President Baek Sun-ho received a message from the Galactic Confederacy. They were offering humanity everything. Full reparations for 60 years of mistreatment. Territory rights to an entire sector of space. Permanent seats on the Confederacy Council. Unconditional apologies broadcast to every world. It was everything humanity had ever asked for. Everything they had dreamed of when they first reached the stars. Baek read the offer 3 times. Then he set it aside. They are only sorry because they are suffering, he told his advisors. 10 years ago, when we asked for fair treatment, they laughed at us. 5 years ago, when we asked to be left alone, they sent warships. Now they are dying. So suddenly they want to talk. He shook his head. The answer is no. Admiral Park Ji-soo, now commanding the entire patrol fleet, intercepted another refugee ship near the outer boundary. It was larger than usual, carrying thousands of beings from a dozen different species. They were running from the collapse of their worlds, hoping to find safety in human space. Ji-soo looked at the faces on her screen. Children, elderly, families holding each other in fear. They had nothing. They were nobody. Many of them had never personally harmed a human being. But their governments had. Their species had. and humanity could not help them without opening doors that had been sealed for good reason. "Turn them away," she ordered. "Sir." Commander Kang Do-yoon stepped closer to her chair. "Are we sure about this?" Jisoo did not look at him. "Are we sure?" "No, I am never sure anymore. But our orders are clear, and our orders exist for a reason. We cannot save everyone. We cannot fix what the galaxy broke. All we can do is protect our own people. Some of them will die out there, I know." Jisoo finally turned to face him. Her eyes were tired. "And it will hurt. It hurts every time. But I keep asking myself, would they have helped us? If it was human refugees floating in space, would they have opened their doors?" Do-hyun was quiet. They both knew the answer. The refugee ship was escorted away. Jisoo watched it disappear into the darkness, carrying its cargo of the desperate and the innocent. She had stopped sleeping well years ago. She supposed she would stop sleeping entirely someday. On a distant world, a group of alien scientists made a discovery. They called it the Human Archive, a collection of every piece of technology humanity had shared over 60 years. They studied it carefully, looking for ways to replicate what they had lost. But they found something strange. The technology in the archive was incomplete. Critical components were missing. Essential formulas had been simplified. The things humanity had given away were not their best work. They were not even close. They held back, one scientist said in amazement. "All those years, all those generous gifts, and they never gave us their real technology. They gave us what they thought we could handle. Why?" Another asked. "Because they did not trust us. Even then, even when they were being kind, they knew we could not be trusted." The scientist laughed bitterly. "They were smarter than we ever gave them credit for. The archive was sealed. There was nothing useful in it." The scientists went home to their dying worlds with empty hands. In her laboratory, Dr. Han Yuna sat alone in the darkness. On her screen was a file she had created years ago. The cure for Kelthian wasting disease. She had recreated it from memory, working in secret, telling no one. She could send it to them. One message and millions of lives would be saved. Children would live who would otherwise die. But she did not send it. Instead, she thought about the genetic data. The 40 years of being studied like an animal. The Kelthians who had smiled at her at conferences while secretly selling her DNA to the highest bidder. She closed the file without sending it. Some nights, she could still hear the children in her dreams. But she told herself it was not her fault. She told herself that the Kelthians had made their choice, and now they were living with the consequences. She told herself these things over and over, hoping that someday she would believe them. The galaxy continued to collapse, and humanity continued to watch in silence, remembering every wound, forgiving nothing. But even the hardest hearts cannot stay hard forever. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something was beginning to change. The first tiny crack in the wall that humanity had built around itself. Not everyone had forgotten how to apologize, and not everyone had forgotten how to hope. 10 years after the withdrawal, a single ship approached the Sol system. It was small and old. It had no weapons, no shields, no escort. It moved slowly through the darkness, broadcasting the same message over and over again. "We come only to speak. We expect nothing. We offer our lives as proof of sincerity." Fleet Admiral Cho Min-ho watched the ship on his display. It was a Vethrani vessel. The same species that had laughed at humanity. The same species that had sent 300 warships to conquer them. His finger moved toward the weapons control. One button and the ship would become dust. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. "Let them approach," he ordered. "Under heavy guard." One wrong move, and they die. The ship was brought to Earth orbit and boarded by security teams. Inside, they found only one passenger, a female Vethrani named Velar. She was a historian, not a politician. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. When the soldiers pointed their guns at her, she did not flinch. "I am here to apologize," she said. "Not on behalf of my government. They did not send me. I came alone because someone had to." She was brought before the United Earth Council in chains. She had asked for the chains herself, to show that she expected no mercy. The council chamber was full. President Beek Sunho sat at the center table, looking older and more tired than ever. Beside him were Ambassador Yoon Haran, Admiral Cho Min-ho, Admiral Park Ji-soo, and a dozen other leaders who had spent 10 years maintaining humanity's wall against the universe. They all looked at this alien in chains and wondered what she could possibly say that would matter. Velar stood straight. Her silver skin was dull with age, and her eyes were sad. But her voice was clear. "I am not here to negotiate," she began. "I have nothing to offer you. My government did not send me, and they would probably execute me if they knew I was here. I came because I have spent 10 years studying your species, and I finally understand what we destroyed." She paused. The council waited. "You were not generous because you were weak. You were generous because you had seen what cruelty does to civilizations. Your history is full of war and hatred and suffering. You experienced it all. And somehow, despite everything, you chose to be different. You chose to reach out to others with kindness instead of violence." Her voice broke slightly. "We did not understand. We thought your kindness was stupidity. We thought your generosity was submission. We took and took and took, and we laughed at you for giving. We never realized that you were offering us the most valuable thing in the universe, a chance to be better than we were." She reached into her coat. The guards raised their weapons, but she only pulled out a data chip. "This contains complete records of every crime committed against humanity by every species in the Confederacy. My own people's crimes are documented most thoroughly. I spent 5 years gathering this information, not to make excuses, but so that you would know, some of us finally understand what we did. Some of us are ashamed." She placed the chip on the floor in front of her and stepped back. "I am not asking for your help. I am not asking for your forgiveness. I know we do not deserve either. I only wanted you to know that not everyone in the galaxy has forgotten how to feel sorry. And maybe someday when you are ready, some of us will be worthy of your trust again." She bowed her head. "That is all I came to say. You may do with me as you wish." The council was silent for a long moment. Ambassador Yoon Haran, who had said no to 1,000 delegations, who had turned away refugees and diplomats and beggars without hesitation, looked at this alien in chains. She saw something she had almost forgotten existed. Genuine remorse. Not the fake apologies of politicians trying to get something. Not the desperate pleas of species who only regretted their actions because they were suffering. This was real. This Vethrani had risked her life, gone against her own government, traveled alone through hostile space, just to say she was sorry. Haran turned to President Beek. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "it is time to discuss what comes next." The debate lasted for hours. Some council members wanted to reject Velar's apology and send her away. Some wanted to accept it immediately. Some did not know what they wanted. Admiral Ji-soo listened to the arguments. She thought about all the years she had spent turning away ships, all the faces she had sent back into the darkness, all the nights she had not slept. Finally, she spoke. 10 years ago, we decided to stop being generous because the galaxy did not deserve our kindness. That was the right decision. We were being used, and we had to protect ourselves. She looked at Velar. "But I have been thinking lately. about who we were before, about who we wanted to be. We used to believe that the universe could be better. We used to believe that kindness was strength. We were wrong to give that kindness to creatures who did not value it. But maybe we were not wrong to believe in it. She turned to face the council. If we stay angry forever, we become exactly what we hate. Cold, hard, alone. Is that really what we want humanity to be? Is that what our children should inherit? The room was quiet. Finally, President Beak spoke. We will not forgive what was done to us. We cannot forget. But perhaps we can begin very carefully to build something new. On our terms this time. With our eyes open, he looked at Velar. You may return to your people with a message. Humanity is willing to talk. But this time, we write the rules. This time, anyone who breaks our trust will face consequences. This time, there will be no second chances. Velar nodded. Tears were running down her silver face. That is more than we deserve. Yes, Beak said. It is. But it is who we choose to be. 2 weeks later, Rear Admiral Jisoo escorted Velar back to her ship. At the airlock, the Vethrani historian turned to face her. Why? She asked. After everything we did, why are you even considering letting us try again? Jisoo thought about it for a long time. She thought about the woman she had been before the withdrawal. The captain who believed in reaching out to others. The person who had not yet learned to hate. Because we remember who we wanted to be, she finally said. And maybe it is time to be that again. On our terms this time. Velar's ship departed. Behind it, for the first time in 10 years, the Sol System's communication arrays powered up. Humanity had something to say to the galaxy. The message went out on every frequency, in every language. We are willing to talk. But this time, we write the terms. Anyone who approaches with honest intentions will be heard. Anyone who tries to cheat us again will be destroyed. The choice is yours. Across the stars, billions of beings heard the message. Some were afraid. Some were hopeful. Some were both. But everyone understood one thing. The old galaxy was gone. The new galaxy would be built on different rules. Rules that humanity had written in blood and pain and 10 years of silence. In her laboratory, Dr. Han Yuna opened a file she had kept locked for years. The cure for Kelthian wasting disease. She looked at it for a long time. Then she sent it, anonymously, without asking for anything in return. Some things did not need recognition. Some things just needed to be done. 50 years later, historians would write about the birth of the new Galactic Compact. They would describe how humanity had rebuilt the galaxy's institutions on principles of transparency, accountability, and genuine equality. They would note that cheating was now punished severely, and that trust had to be earned rather than assumed. But mostly, they would write about the lesson that humanity had taught the universe. Kindness is not weakness. Generosity is not stupidity. The species that reaches out with open hands is not beneath the species that reaches out with weapons. But kindness is a choice, and choices can be changed. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. They would not forget it again. And somewhere in the stars, Admiral Park Jisoo, now old and gray, looked down at the universe she had helped rebuild. She thought about all the dark years, all the walls she had helped build and then helped tear down. She thought about who humanity had been, who they had become, who they were now. And for the first time in many years, she smiled. They were not perfect. They were not saints. But they were still trying to be good. That was enough. That had always been enough.